Welcome to Around the Corner, a podcast about leadership and organizational performance. I'm Ayana James.
And I'm Megan Liu. Welcome to Season 1, where we talk with 9 future-focused leaders and dig into their stories and perspective, as well as wisdom about driving change and leading into the future. At STRAAD, we believe that leadership is the engine of performance, and our work creates the pathways to make that possible.
Conversations like this podcast help shape our own work with leaders, and we are excited to share with you. Perhaps you'll be challenged or take away an insight that enriches your own leadership journey. Welcome to Around the Corner.
Our guest today is John Heller, a seasoned executive and global change leader. John has spent decades leading system-level change around the world, working with governments, corporations, and nonprofits on issues from maternal health to agricultural transformation. His work demonstrates that leadership is most powerful when it integrates many forms of intelligence: strategic and emotional, individual and collective, practical and spiritual.
At the heart of John's leadership is a deep humanity, an orientation toward love, justice, and care. He defines leadership as the ability to focus collective attention, performance as living fully into the role you are meant to play, and potential as the future that calls you forward. His stories span international development, family enterprise, and the boxing ring. And they remind us that leadership is about presence, self-knowledge, and the courage to stretch into the unknown. This episode is an invitation to reflect on the unique contribution only you can offer in your leadership. Let's step into the conversation. Welcome, John Heller. It's fabulous to have you with us on our podcast, Around the Corner. We start all our conversations with an invitation to our guests to define for us in their own way, their own personal perspective on 3 key words. The words are leadership, performance, and potential. So as we step into this conversation, we'd love to hear what you know about those words, what they mean to you.
Sure.
Thank you.
Thank you both for having me here. It's a joy.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So leadership, I think I'll borrow from Otto Scharmer, who I worked with for some time. He defines leadership as focusing collective attention, which I think is really clear. And where your attention is where your action flows. Performance, how should I define performance? I think everything in nature has a job to do. Grass has a job to do, a tree has a job to do, a lion has a job to do, I have a job to do, and the two of you have a job to do. I think performance is knowing what your job is and doing it. Like, we all have a function in the big ecosystem of the universe, and being really precise about what it is and fully living into that job is performance for me. And potential for me is really about the future and expanding into your full future possibility. Like, what future is most calling you, or what future requires you to make it happen? And living into that is living into your potential.
Amazing. All of those are clear and at the same time so expansive. They're specific, so expansive at the same time. John, do you mind?
I told you I'd be short of answer. Like, you asked me a question, I'll give you a sentence. So.
Well, yeah.
Those are powerful ones.
Those are powerful sentences. Let's go. I wouldn't mind just taking it slow and going into each of these just like a little bit more, if you will. Focusing collective attention. If that's what leadership is, the task of the leader is to ...
Raise awareness among the collective about what's most important, and to direct that attention where it most needs to go. so that eventually manifests into action that moves us all forward collectively. And sometimes, how should I say this? There's a full range of ways that leaders can do that. And I think really good leaders know how to show up. Sometimes that focusing of collective attention needs to be very subtle and very back of the room and very gentle. Sometimes it's a Tai Chi move that just moves the energy one way. And sometimes it's much more direct, it's much more overt, it's much more front of the room. But it's like the art of leadership, I think, is knowing how to calibrate that to the circumstance that you find yourself in.
John, you spoke about lions and trees, your definition of performance. When you think about the art of leadership and the definition that you've given, this notion of focusing awareness, drawing awareness to what needs attention, is that in all parts of, is there any expression of leadership where that's not it? Like that, is that in our context? Does that happen in organizational spaces? Does that happen in nature? Does that happen, is it everywhere?
I think that could be, I don't know about nature, but I mean, I think that could be universally true, like in the organizations and systems. I mean, what do great leaders do? They say we're going here. Like, let's get our attention there. And, why are we going there? This is the reason, this is the rationale. Sometimes leadership is just saying that we're going here. Come with me. This is a better place. Let's go there. I see something that you don't see. But I think, where your attention is where your actions come from. And so leaders that really can help focus that are effective.
When you spoke about performance, thank you for that. Lions, trees, tigers, and more. And knowing what your job is that you need to do, I get a sense of a combination of like personal autonomy, like I know what my job is, right? Autonomy, clarity for sure. When we think about leadership in organizational contexts, my experience has been it's been a both and. Like there's a role that you step into, you give your yes to. There's a role description, and then there's a way in which I, the person embodying that role, get to live that out. Do you see performance as like I'm wondering if you and I are thinking the same way. Like performance is about where those two things meet, and there's a beautiful, expression, a song that like comes out of that. A lot of metaphors this conversation so far. Just say a little bit more about that. How much of it is like autonomy, and how much of it is me stepping into something that's been framed for me?
Yeah, I think I'm going to give you a series of weird answers for our whole
Yeah, yeah.
conversation today. So we're going to starting now or continuing now. I think it's like, I think it's more, I'm not thinking about formal roles so much as self-knowledge. Like, who am I in the world?
All right, let's
How
go
do
there.
I show up? What's my magic? Everybody's got medicine. Everybody's got magic. What is it? And I know for myself, like I'll have a formal role and all this stuff I have to do, and of course I'll do all those things. But it's like, how do I show up in any given situation? How do I influence the course of events with my presence? And I think when I was younger, I thought performance was work. That makes sense. Like, I just have to work hard. I just got to do more stuff. I got to carry more water, and that will make me perform more. And maybe that's true to some extent. But I've learned, again, there's so much subtlety when you show up in a system and you bring your heart in a certain, or if I bring my heart in a certain way, or I bring my relational field in a certain way, things can move in a very high performing kind of way. Or if I'm leading a team, my part of my magic is to create emotional safety for people. And so like if I know that's part of my magic or my medicine, I'm creating a situation for where people feel safe,
Mm-hmm.
they're performing incredibly well. They'll perform more, and I'm performing. I'm doing my job, but
Mm-hmm.
I know what I'm good at. Does
Mm-hmm.
that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
100%.
Yeah. John, I have a follow-up question. How do you help others find their medicine, their magic? If they're conditioned or programmed to carry the water, how do you help unlock them? How do you help them, find who they are?
Well, they may be good at carrying the woman. That may be their magic, you know.
Fair, fair. Yeah,
Like some
yeah.
people are just brilliant at just like doing that. What's the quote? The only thing that we can truly know in this life is ourselves,
Mm,
and most of us learn that too late or know that too late.
mhm,
And so
mhm,
it's reflection and holding a mirror to people and um, helping them see what they can't see. So often our greatest capabilities are invisible to ourselves because we
mhm,
think, well, everybody does that. It's not special.
mhm.
Um, like I was starting a new job a couple years ago at Little Sun, and one of the first things I did with the team was I had everybody around the table, and I had, okay, draw on a piece of paper or make a picture of your superpower.
Mm,
And then we went around, everybody shared their superpower. And then what I had other people do was to say the superpower that the person didn't see that they had.
mhm.
So you had your perception
Yeah.
of your superpower and everybody else's perception, and it was so enlightening other people's perception. Like you think you're a
Mhm,
this, but other people see you as a that, and that's amazing. That other thing that you do that you just do naturally, and
mhm,
raising the waterline or helping people have a little more visibility or awareness around that can be really powerful, really
mhm,
powerful. And I think
mhm.
also like as a leader, giving people kind of straight up feedback around, that kind of thing and saying, in this situation, I know you were maybe your formal role was this, but actually you showed up like that and that was amazing.
Mhm,
Let's talk about that. And then
mhm.
also there's the kind of like regular HR tools, the 360s and so forth that give people more
Yeah.
dimensionality to how they're seen.
Mhm, mhm, mhm. Yeah, I really appreciated your comment around uh that it's so helpful to explore all areas of who you are, and sometimes that takes other folks helping you see those areas.
Yeah.
Mhm,
I
mhm.
you know, and I also think that people can show up in a work environment with a limited bandwidth or like, oh,
Yeah,
I'm only supposed to be like this at work. Like I
yeah,
remember I was talking to him. She was a leader of an organization. She was very formal in her organization. And then I learned that she had this like very important yoga practice that she did. She was a yoga instructor, wherever, but it was like that was here and that was there. I'm like, why
yeah,
don't you bring why don't you
yeah,
bring that here? Your deep knowledge of, body and movement and spirit and union and so forth. Like apply that to your teams. It doesn't have to stop at the door.
yeah,
And she's like, oh, okay. Why
yeah,
don't I think about that? But we
yeah.
have often such rigid ideas
Hmm.
about what work is and who we need to be at work.
Hmm. Hmm.
And I think the more we can bring more of us, I mean, the happier we are, but
Hmm.
also the higher performing that we are.
Hmm. Hmm. Yeah, agreed. Hmm.
I also we learn so much from so much of our life, right? And
Hmm.
we put these boundaries around what's appropriate where. And, I think I've told you, Ayana, like, so I box,
Mm.
among other things, and which is like really off-brand for me, but I do it kind of big because it's off-brand.
Right.
But boxing gave me
Like
a
in a ring?
total.
Like hold on. Like in a boxing ring or like with like in a gym?
No, 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 no. Like in a ring, hitting another
Oh,
person, and they're hitting you back, and it's totally terrifying. And
yeah.
the point of bringing this in is like that's given me a completely alternative
Hmm.
vocabulary and way of being in the world
Yeah.
that I had no access to. Like I'm really good at like the loving diplomacy, connection, all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
That's my strong suit.
Got it
I
nailed.
w-
Yeah.
I nail that. I was missing power,
Yeah.
and a relationship with power, raw power.
Yeah.
And I got
Physicality.
physicality, but I got that from that.
Yeah.
I needed that, so I pursued it,
Hmm.
and I brought that into my work, and it made me perform better. Like I'd be in a work meeting, and I'm like, okay, who's this person?
Uppercut, cross
Yeah,
check.
right. No, it would be more like, okay, I'm going to give this person two light jabs. I'm not going to hurt them, but I'm going to let them know that I'm here.
Yeah.
Like, this is
Yeah.
my space, and they can't invade my space. And so like that just like it
Yeah.
gave me so much more that I was missing. and
Hmm.
and I needed that, and I needed to be able to bring that in. And so I think
Hmm.
also, like in the context of leadership, when you have staff or teams or whatever, like how do you
Hmm.
acknowledge the strong suit and also ways that people can round out what they may
Hmm.
be missing so that they can be their full person
Hmm.
in the world or do their full job as nature designed them to do.
Hmm. 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 Beautiful.
It's terrifying, by the way, the whole
Yeah.
boxing thing.
I'm just contemplating
It's
actually, like
it's
what parts
it's
of me
real.
do I need to go and box with? Yeah.
Well, they say you only ever box yourself and your past,
Yeah.
Huh. Yeah.
and there's a lot of wisdom there, I think,
Hmm.
and
Hmm.
it's really scary. And I just one quick boxing anecdote. Early on in my boxing thing, the coach guy, like we were sparring, and he was really aggressive, and he got right up into my face, and he's just like pummeling me, and he's like, "This is life coming at you. What are you going to do?"
Right.
And it was like, was a good quote. Well, what was I going to do? Was I going to jump out of the ring? Was I going to cry? Was I going to hide? Was I going to defend? Was I going to throw a punch?
Hmm.
Mm-hmm.
I had to learn how
Hmm.
to operate under that kind of pressure.
Hmm. Hmm.
Yeah.
Hmm.
The scale of self-awareness, John, I'm noticing your understanding of self. Like I have these things, great. It's my who I am, what I do, and this is where I really wanted to stretch. Uh,
Yeah.
Hmm.
it, it, I'm back on this play of like, the intersection of awareness, autonomy, agency, like knowing yourself, and being in some ways like not what's the word I'm looking for? It's like not accepting that the you know today is all that there is. There,
Hmm.
there could be more. There could be different. I'm also wondering if I'm hearing what you're saying, that this leadership that focuses collective attention, that notices the superpowers in others, that acknowledges what might be. For you, is leadership then also about being in the art of developing others or forming others?
Yeah.
How would you, yeah, go there?
I mean, different leaders will say different things. I mean, I'll tell you what I feel. It's like
Hmm.
the joy of my life, or for me, the joy of leadership is that
Is that?
Hmm.
it is
Yeah.
supporting people to expand into their fullness.
Mm,
It's like job and beyond job. Like, when you're on my team, I'm on your team for life, and
yes.
like for your whole life and beyond the work. Like I had a young guy on one of my teams years ago. He was 20 years old and wicked smart. I'm like, okay, dude, what do you want? How do you want to grow? He said,
Hmm.
I need to get out in the world. I need to just do my own projects, and I need to travel. So like, okay, here's a plane ticket to Nigeria. Here's a plane ticket to India. Here's a plane ticket, whatever.
Hmm.
Go. It's all you. Call me if you need me. And he just like dove in. And he
Yeah.
needed that stretch, and he needed somebody to see that he was capable. He was like, he was totally capable. He was a little out in front of his skis, which is exactly where he needed to be.
Hmm.
And so, I have another friend who liked to say, if you want to grow your business 30% a year, you got to grow your people 30% a year as people. So like you're always,
Hmm.
always investing in people and growth and expansion. And also,
Hmm.
Ayana, I wanted to go back to the thing you said about how to round out those places in you that need development. Like you have a you need to like listen to that little whisper of like, oh, I'm not, I'm missing this, or either I'm missing this or that person is missing this. And so how do we pay attention to that little voice in the margins of our mind that says, well, maybe there's more to me than I thought, or maybe there's more to that person than they thought. And so what would an enriching new experience look like for them or for me? Or what would a enriching new teacher look like for them or for me? And the funny thing is, like, again, on boxing, I didn't start this morning thinking I was going to talk to you about boxing, but like the funny thing in the beginning when I started boxing, it was so preposterous. I would just like burst out laughing in the middle of it. Like, what was I doing in a boxing? It was so not me.
Yeah.
And then, then I get smacked in the face and I'd stop laughing. But like, but I needed that. I needed something totally new.
Yeah.
That's how it was in my early days in hot yoga, and it's like 39 degrees and humidity. And they're like serious 35, 40 people, going through all the asanas. And I would just break out laughing. Like, why are we
Yeah.
choosing to do this?
What is
I'm
this?
breaking all the
Why
bad-
this is ridiculous. Why am I here? But like, we have to also trust that there's a reason why we do something that stretches us a little bit, or
Yeah.
we may, if you get up and you go to the office and you come home and you don't do something a little different, you're not going to see anything different either.
Yeah. And John, I'd want to add to a lens of from noticing what's missing to also noticing what tickles your delight. Because like there's something about curiosity as well, right? It's like have you also pay attention to just that's interesting. Oh, you know what I mean? You pull back, but you want to lean in. I think curiosity also is a piece of this paying attention to the fullness of who you are and who you might be becoming.
Well, I think we're really effective in jobs that we do if we're feeding that curiosity.
Yeah.
Like, oh, that's interesting. Like, give me more, give me another slice of that. That's cool. I never went there before. I mean, sometimes, I think like, I worked in international development poverty stuff for like 30 plus years.
Yeah.
Hardly, I was just really interested in the world. I just loved going out. I mean, I would consume countries whole. I would just, I'd get an assignment in some place. I'd learn everything I could about that place. I'd dive in deep. I'd understand the culture. Like that fed me. And because I was so fed, I was so nourished by that. The work it just was beautiful and easy, and it flowed because I was so switched on. I was like, wow, check this out. How'd I get here?
Yeah.
It was just a joy, one joy after another.
John, where does risk taking show up for you?
Mm. Yeah. Well, all kinds of ways.
Yeah.
Um, the things I've done that I've enjoyed the most and actually have turned out the best, I really haven't totally known what I was doing, which is a certain kind of risk, which is
Yeah.
terrifying. So I'll give you an
Yeah.
example,
Yeah.
and then I'll give you another example. So years ago, I worked on this maternal mortality program, maternal mortality prevention program in Namibia and Southern Africa. We got some money from the Gates Foundation and so forth. I put the whole thing together and designed it. I really didn't know what I was doing. I had no health, background whatsoever. I knew a little bit about systems, and we were teaming this whole thing up. And I sat next. I went to see the prime minister of the country. We sat there, and he said, "How much money did you get?" I told him, it was a lot for his country, and he just like leaned in and said, make this count. Like, I'm holding you accountable for you personally, John Heller, for this thing, for this outcome. Like, women are dying. I didn't lead an independent struggle for women to die in childbirth, and you have to fix it. And I didn't know what I was doing. Like, that was a huge risk. It was like, I looked the guy in the eye, shook his hand, told him I would do it the best I could. And I did. It was a huge personal risk. But like, because it was so risky, because I was so exposed, like, I really attended to that. Like I wasn't looking to the left and the right. I wasn't flippant. I hired the right people. I made good choices. My I was my awareness was so activated
Yep.
that I paid attention. I tended to that in such a way that it eventually turned out well, and we were able to like cut the maternal mortality rate in half in the country, which is good. And I can say a lot more about that project. The other thing just about risk, I have an unusual profile because I've worked all these years in international development and poverty and so forth. But I grew up around a family business where I'm actually sitting in the family business office at the moment, where we talk a lot about risk and, financial risk and so forth. And, the thing I learned from my father, among many other things, is like never take a risk that you don't really fully understand. Like risk is fine, but know what risk you're taking. Like my young kids are like, oh, let's invest in crypto, let's invest in NFTs. I'm like, okay, if you really show me how you really understand it, and then we'll talk. But if you don't really understand it, don't stay away. Risk is all right. Yeah.
It sounds like that president was a great leader.
He really cared, Naha Sangula of Namibia. He cared. He liked to introduce himself as a lapsed school teacher.
Yeah.
Because he was a school teacher, and then the whole independent struggle happened, and he got swept up in that. He really cared, and he was very accessible.
Yeah.
And they had a strong sense of a national project there, which wasn't the case in a lot of other countries that I worked with. But I have to say, throughout my career, I've encountered amazing leaders like him and others who, despite the odds, really cared about what they were doing. Even I worked a lot in Nigeria. People around agricultural transformation. Some of the people in the ministry hadn't gotten paid for 6 months or a year, but they showed up for work. They cared. They wanted to make a difference, and I really wanted to honor that. That was another risky project, Nigeria. It's not easy working there. And well, can I tell you one of the ways that I mitigate the risk of those places?
Please. Yeah.
And this I think, is a long pattern throughout my career. I in many jobs, I've been like the first person to go someplace, or the new thing I'm doing. When we were in college, we used to sit around the table with my friends, and we were like pretend to be a family, and we all had kind of like names. I was the experimental child, and so I was always doing the new thing, and so in work, I would often try the new thing, be out in front, out on the ledge, new country, new project, new approach, whatever. That's part of my constitution for whatever reason. And so, as I jumped into Namibia and Ethiopia and Nigeria and other countries, part of the ways that I managed the risk was well, I need friends, I need partners, I need angels. Like in Nigeria, I need an angel of a certain kind for this project. I need somebody who can tell it to me straight, who can move around the different ethnic groups and the different dynamics of the very complex place. And so the task I set myself to was finding my angel. And so that was my job for a little while. And so I talked to some friends. I looked around. I made some inquiries, and I had a friend of mine from Sierra Leone who was working in Lagos. And I said, listen, I need an angel. She said, I got one. I got just the guy. And she set us up, and we met in London at some point. And I told him the story, and he told me his story. I'm like, okay, dude, I love you. What do you need financially? What do you need? What do you need? Tell me the deal that you need, all the factors you need. And I'm saying yes to that. And he said yes, and I said yes, and that was it. Without that, otherwise you're just naked on an unknown shore. You don't have anybody, and that made all the difference.
John, we spoke about what it can take to awaken one's awareness of what's required, needed, missing, curious. Apply that thinking to the notion of care. When we are in a global context, geopolitical and more, where what's really visible at times are folks exclusively, and be very generalized here, it looks like caring only about themselves,
Mm.
not caring at all. I'm not going to engage. My world is just here in this square, this bubble. What do you know about waking that up to care, to want to make a difference, and to do the rigorous work of self and then application, putting it into action? What do you know about that?
Where to start? I think, look, we all live in our own bubbles, and that's not bad or terrible. It's just we all live in our own bubbles, and we see what we see. And some part of the work of development or the work that I've done is to help people see beyond their bubble, or to expand their field of awareness, so that they can see something that they don't ordinarily see, or interact with people that they don't ordinarily interact with. So like on a lot of the large-scale systems change work that I've done, we have government and business and nonprofits and others coming together to do some kind of collective problem solving. They all have their own definition of whatever the problem is, their own definition of the solution, because they've gone to certain kinds of schools, they've been trained in a certain kind of way, and they live in a certain kind of bubble. And again, that's not bad or wrong. And they may not have access to other awareness or other bubbles, but sometimes the role of an outside intervener is to help people expand their bubble or expand their awareness of others, or to see the world from somebody else's perspective. So that's like learning journeys and interviews and access to information that they might have. So when you're intervening from the outside, I think creating kind of a delicious buffet of new ways to see the world is additive, or can be additive. You know, like back to the Namibia example, one of the things we did was to get the Minister of Health to walk in the shoes of a nurse for a day, which seems really basic, but a minister is like always in meetings, always at the ministry, always looking at budgets, always managing the politics. Very hard to get out of the pattern. And so the minister walked, where all the nurses were, and he would come back and say, I had no idea this was happening in my health system. We have to do better. And so sometimes just like really basic stuff, just like getting out of your office and seeing stuff. I don't know if that answers your question, but that's how I start to think about it.
Yeah, it does. I mean, I can see the awareness or like emotional arithmetic, right? Like there's a piece of exposure, the ingredients, arithmetic, I don't know, too many metaphors, but exposure is required, awareness is acquired, a community to help you debrief and understand, what did I just experience? What am I seeing? The broadening of vocabulary, because I think we speak our way into realities, right?
Yeah.
So when we use only particular vocabulary, we anchor ourselves to bubbles that we are in, and privilege those bubbles exclusively.
Can I give you another example? Quick example
Please,
about that. So I worked with a lot of big companies and corporate foundations around social impact strategies. And I'm thinking about one company. We did some work around water in India. They had problems in their factories and so forth. And we'd go to their office and we'd talk about those places in a as disembodied as you could imagine. Climate controlled office in North America talking about some situation in India, like so sterile versus so real. And I'm like, we got to go there. We can't just be here talking about this. And so we went there together. I went with them, and we taught to the villagers who live in the shadows of their factories. And we asked, like, is your life better or worse? And their life was not better. They had all kinds of problems. The water was getting sucked out of the ground. The jobs were going to somebody else. All this stuff. They just didn't. They couldn't see it from where they were sitting. And how should I say it? We helped them process that, and shifted some of their awareness around that. And what's also interesting is like all those. It was a very meaningful experience for those people from the company, and most of them left the company after that. And weirdly, in that Namibia thing, we partnered with a large international consulting firm, and all the people there left after that project. Like there was some heartfulness, some heart opening that not only served the project that we were doing, but also opened something up for the people in the process such that they had to go do something else for their lives entirely. That makes sense?
100%. When we see a thing, do a thing, feel a thing, we can't unsee it, unfeel it. And when it opens up a sense of agency in one's life, that's when, John, I just think, yes, there's hope. Hope lives, right? That tomorrow can be different than today because a choice that I make or my neighbor makes or my fellow consultant, makes, who has a heart-filled experience, that it can be different. I mean, I think this is why Megan and I are in this work.
Yeah.
That's the hope we carry.
Yeah. And I think for me, there's a lot of importance to pattern disrupting experiences. And that open us up. Like, how do we open? How do we open to some new possibilities? And, and that is a heart question more than anything else. Like, how do our hearts open?
John,
these, go ahead.
no, please.
No, come.
I have a more tactical question in terms of I can imagine sitting in the air conditioning building in North America talking about something in faraway place with potentially some blue suits. How are you convincing folks to leave that context and take their own set of risk? How are you having those conversations?
Yeah. Sometimes I fail. Not every context is conducive for that. It's time and expense and all those kind of things that go into corporate decision making.
Yeah.
But I think we try to ask the question: are we being effective? Are we making the difference that we say we're making?
Yeah.
I also try to, in a corporate setting, you have to put it into terms that a company will understand. So if your factories are being shut down because people in the local area are protesting, how much is days of production worth to the company, versus how much a trip to go over there and figure out what to do would cost? So it's, millions of dollars of lost productivity, a little bit of
Yeah.
investment to figure out. So it's that. So some of it's moral, part, the right thing to do. Some of it is like, are we being effective doing this thing that we're doing? And then some of it is like dollars and cents, business, bottom line.
Yeah.
Why don't we do something that really fixes the underlying problem rather than just look at the symptoms?
Yeah, thanks for pulling it apart because oftentimes I think people have the same intention as what you're saying. We need to go do something different to get a different outcome. But I think the magic in what you're also saying is you have to be able to translate,
Yeah.
speak someone's language, put it in the context that their bubble can see.
Yep. Well, it's like I'm thinking maybe this is a boxing thing, but it's like, what's this person's trigger? What drives this person I'm talking to? What is it? They need to look good to their boss? Do they really care? What's their story? And so, like, I need to speak to that story to get the outcome that's going to work. So not one size fits all.
John, there's a question in me around your own practices around being able to locate your privilege. So
Mm.
I'm in this conversation. I'm also trying to like listen. If I was on the outside, it's like, oh, John Heller's lives a pretty privileged life. That sounds like a lot of, air miles and points and global travel. And yet, I think that a lot of what you're saying is accessible no matter where you are. To be human in the location that you are, to put, earned empathy on first, recognizing and beholding others, breaking up one's own patterns, conversations about morality and ethics and more. Just say something about how you've learned to locate your privilege and not be consumed by it, not have ego rise. How do you modulate that so that you can access yourself and access who you are, no matter where you are?
Yeah. I'll call that still a work in progress. It's um, hard to be fully aware of one's own privilege, I think. Sometimes it's invisible to us. I think part of it for me is just trying to be really, really aware of any situation that I'm in, who I am in this situation. And like I went to a training not that long ago and I was like, oh, okay, I'm a white man. Am I taking up too much? What's the right level of space that I should be taking up in this thing? Even if I've got something to say, maybe I just keep my mouth shut. Like just trying to be aware. I don't always get it right. Um, I think it's just like constantly checking in with oneself, trying to be humble, and also getting feedback from others, like how one should show up. Um, I'm going to say something that might be off-putting as well too, which is a little weird, but I'll say it anyway. Like, since a lot of my work has involved being an intervener from the outside, stepping into these various countries, how do I partner with local people there to use my outsiderness, which is some privilege attached to that, to make things happen that an insider would have a hard time to make happen? So it's kind of also just like wielding the privilege for higher social good. I know that sounds awful. Does that make any sense? It's just
Keep going.
being aware of it. Well, it's like like my guy in Nigeria. Like, okay, how do we use me being a guy from New York to move the dial on something or to get the meeting that you'd have a hard time to get,
Yeah.
which isn't flattering or good, but it's like, well, we got it. Let's use it. It's just one of the tools in our toolbox.
Yeah. That's
But I
really
feel uncomfortable. I feel uncomfortable saying that, even. But it's is what is.
well, the moment we talk about the reality of systems, right? There are levers within systems. There are dynamics within the system, and to leverage that. These days, I get to do a lot of what I like to brand mic drop preaching, as a clergy person. We're no longer with the congregation and fully devoted to STRAAD. I'll have colleagues say, call me up. We're in an arc of transformation in our community, arc of transformation. I'm trying to move the needle here, here, and here. I've said it 7 times. They're still not hearing me. How might you, right? Because the location is different, the perspective is different, the voice is different, and the power, and readiness, listen to a different voice is there. So yeah, I hear you. It actually links for me to your notion of like pattern disruption, right? Using it as a tool to break up the pattern and move the system forward.
Who can hear what from who? And just using that smartly, if you can. I suppose a lot of people use that for less good aims. We're trying to heal the world, or I'm trying to heal the world best I can.
Yeah. John, let's you're trying to heal the world as best you can. I'd like to talk a little bit about you being a parent and raising, beautiful humans in the world, both you and Megan. I get really curious about how do we slow down the need to unlearn, unlearn, learn this in our adulthood? And how do we start this at even younger ages? A lot of the human skills, intrinsic leadership skills, they can be practiced throughout one's entire life. I'd love to hear maybe like you both, like talk a little bit about what you're noticing about how to form these perspectives, this way of operating in the world from the time we enter. Do we come in with this, then we unlearn it, and we have to learn it again? Are there things that we could be doing as leaders in organizations, as parents? Like, what are your thoughts on that? Next generation growing up in this way.
Go ahead, John.
You,
You start. You start.
um, well, there's a lot to say. I mean, I'll start in a sideways place, which is, I think, partly for raising children, it's what institutions you connect them to and what their values are,
Mm.
which is, again, it's a strange way to look at it, but like, so for my kids, again, privileged, they were able to go to summer camps, but like they went to like beautiful, wholesome, natural summer camp experiences, no technology, nature, good values. They have like just a base in that.
Mhm.
The religious community that we're part of, very connected, spiritual, socially progressive. So like kind of the messaging that they're getting, not just from the home, has
Mhm.
been very supportive. And the schools that they've gone to have had that kind of ethos. So like very intentional choices because they spend so much time in these other places. And of course, children may not listen to everything that their parents say,
Mhm.
but they follow your pattern. I mean, they see your patterns. They notice who you are in the world. They pick it up.
Yeah.
And so I think the institutional infrastructure really supports whatever messages they're getting at home or whatever patterns that they're looking at home. What would you say,
Mhm.
Megan?
Mhm. I agree, and maybe I will speak to the at-home pieces. Um, I probably didn't have this language when, I had children early on, but I think now we spend a lot of time, STRAAD-Speak, debriefing. We spend a lot of time with our kids talking about what they're seeing, feeling, hearing, and trying to turn on call it their own sense of intuition, their own sense of their their location in the world, their own decision making. So yeah, time, all the moments of time we can get, we spend a lot of time helping them process. Because I think it's really important the sooner you can kind of connect your strengths, your intuition, like what's happening inside of you to to the actions that you're taking. I think that's really important. Um, I think if you can put your kids into different kinds of environments too, they can get comfortable um, in different kinds of environments. I know that's something we really think about, being able to kind of flex and move and take their bubble. I'm going to try to connect your words, John. Take their bubble and go meet and interact with other bubbles. I think that is really important, at least for us. And um, yeah, the connection with and to nature, like knowing how things work,
Hmm.
knowing, we live inner city. I grew up on a farm. My kids are so, physically disconnected from knowing how food gets on our plates and knowing how water gets here and knowing when it is hot outside, what implications that has, and thinking about seasons. So that's difficult to give them in their day to day because we've made the choice of living inner city, but at least trying to talk about it, trying to connect dots for them. Yeah, that those are the things that have become important for us over time.
Mm. Can I
Mm-hmm.
just pick up on something you said about intuition and reinforcing the intuition?
Mm-hmm.
Because, formal education doesn't speak to the intuition. It
Mm-hmm.
speaks to, learn this, follow these rules or whatever. And intuition is a channel from the divine. I mean, that's like a knowing from some higher place that comes into your being.
Mm-hmm.
And we tend to ignore that or not pay attention to it. And usually when you ignore your intuition, you pay a price. And so I do the same thing with Mike. Like, what do you feel, or what's coming up for
Mm-hmm.
you, or what's your yeah? Say more about that, or where's that coming from? And that's
Mhm.
and that's really powerful, I think, and that's true in the workplace as well too. Like,
Mm-hmm.
like how do we give intuition as much value as data and rigor and all that, which is also important.
Mm-hmm.
I think also the trick around children is really knowing who they are. Like, I got three kids that are really different from one another, and
Mm-hmm.
um, and they have different tools to navigate the world.
Mm-hmm.
And so how to both help them wield the tools that they have really, really well,
Mm-hmm.
and to see which ones they may be missing that they need to acquire over a lifetime.
Mm-hmm.
And also this is a level of nuance, but it's important, which is like the tools are the essential way that they are will come with strengths and blind spots. And
Mm-hmm.
so how to help them play to the strengths, but also recognize the blind spot. Like my daughter's an empath. And so I'm like, okay, you will feel what other people feel, which is an amazing gift. The challenge is you may be unclear about what your own feelings are.
Mm-hmm.
So you'll need to develop a way to set boundaries with other people so that you can know the difference.
Mm-hmm.
But
Mm-hmm.
that's, I wish somebody told me that.
Mm-hmm.
It took, man,
Agreed.
I had to learn that the hard way. So
Yeah. Agreed. Mm-hmm.
So parenting in some ways then is leadership in action. Because you all are just describing pulling on several of the tools,
yeah,
descriptors, ways of being that John's been describing as leadership. Paying attention to the humans, the little
yeah,
ones, say.
yeah.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And I remember something that my children's kindergarten teacher said. She said, "We create the structures within which to bring up or to grow free human beings." And so I think raising children is like that too, because you
Mm-hmm.
create the structures and the safety and the container within which they operate so that they know that they're safe.
Mm-hmm.
But essentially, you want them to be free, and to make their own choices. It's so funny. My kids that I've lived this long career in international development where they got a steady diet of social justice and poverty in the world and in India and Africa, whatever, whatever. They all want to go into business. They're all like money. And I want to make money. I want passive income. I'm like, okay, great.
Mm-hmm.
Go for it. When you get some, send some my way. But so like they're exercising their free will in what calls to
Yeah.
them, and that's fabulous.
Mm-hmm. 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 Mm-hmm.
Yeah. John, do you have a relationship to the idea of building on free will, of calling and vocation in your work or the work of leadership?
Yeah, I
You
mean, at
mentioned,
least because I have had that myself. What were we saying?
well, I'm just going very back to the beginning of our conversation,
Sure.
and when you spoke about potential, and you
Mm-hmm.
said that it's the future calling. I think you used that phrase, the future calling
Mm-hmm.
us. I'm just wondering if we can converge those worlds a little bit. The future potential, the animation of one's free will, and like responding to said calling of the future, what the future is asking of us.
Yeah,
Just want to, yeah, translate that a little bit.
I think we have such knowing about what we need to do, and that knowing is occluded or covered up by what other people think we should do.
Mm-hmm.
Your parents, your teachers, your whatever, whatever. And I know
Mm-hmm.
just for myself, speaking from my own experience, like the when I'm closest to my calling, I'm the most powerful. Like when that aligns with that, I'm like in flow. Like I always, just to very briefly, I mean, I always had the calling to do this kind of work. I always wanted to do world healing work. I always wanted to do international work. Always, always. It was just like, as a kid, I traveled around the world a bit, and I just like, why is there so much poverty and suffering when there's so much abundance? It just made no sense. I couldn't solve for that problem, and I wanted to do something about that. The pressure I had was to run my family, go into my family's business, and to do that. And there are other things in the background I won't go into. And so I'd go into the family business for some years, and I just started to kind of wilt, and my energy ebbed. And then I would go back in, and then I would just take off. And so, like, when we're closest in alignment with our calling, we just know. And it's like, we just know that we're in the right place. Even if it's weird or even if it's left to center, we just know. I think, so I put a lot of stock in calling and intuition and all that.
Yeah. And I've learned in my own story to decouple calling and professional expression, and know that the calling can have multiple expressions,
Sure.
what that looks like in the world. And there's a lovely freedom and permission I've given myself in that, to therefore be truly in good relationship, better relationship, right relationship with the calling vocation part. And then to know that I can play and dance and experiment with the many ways that that gets expressed in the world. And that's one of the ways that I've tried to stretch and evolve and keep experimenting in the work.
And I think, like, I like that. And how do we name the calling? Is it this or this or this? So like for me, like, am I a nonprofit guy? Is that the calling? Am I a world worker? Is that the calling? Am I a light worker? Is that the calling? Am I an energy worker? Am I following the path of the wounded healer? I mean, how do you have some specificity and know how big that umbrella is?
Yeah.
So that it's not only I think it's an easier, happier life if you have the higher order calling that encompasses how you show up in your professional life and how you show up in your spiritual life and how you show up in your family life and so forth, so that there's real integrity and consistency across, and then you know who you are. Does that make sense?
To me, you're speaking my language, 100%.
Okay, good.
And a piece of it too, that a way of getting at it, and I love that I get to do this work when I am coaching, either within an executive corporate context or the whole human even more fully, is to ask the question, like, who is it that you intend to bless? It's like knowing what pain you're actually trying to respond to, I think, can be a pathway to what level of specificity and universality you're trying to access. I had a lovely, we're sharing stories here. I was just on the cusp of my 16th birthday and took my first international trip for social justice reasons. And I was in a small group of 8 persons, and we went to Guatemala City, and then out into the outskirts. And I had a mentor who became a mentor on that trip, a gentleman named David. And David saw me, he was like, well, you're a precocious little thing. You're trying to figure out what you want to do with your life. And I'm like, I need to know my passion. I need to know my purpose now. Like, I'm ready to get after life. And David's counsel, with all love and care, was beautiful and slow down. Don't forget about the third P, the word that starts with P. If purpose is what you want to give to the world, and passion is really what the world gives to you, what lights you up, then pain is what opens you up, and it's the wellspring out of which you will sustain your response. And so I lived with that notion of who needs to be blessed, what needs to change, what activates that inner, that inner drive to say, we can do better. We can do better. Yeah.
Say more about pain. Say more about pain and what does that mean to you?
For me, another A word, we've spoken about awareness and agency and more. It's this notion of affliction. And I've said it already, but like, what breaks the heart open? What can't you not not notice, right? What is it that keeps you up at night, that stirs a part of you that you can't silence? Who is it that what situation would you want to put your arms around? Would you want to put your arms around? So yeah, for me, the affliction at 16 when I started paying attention was communities, people, families, children, who weren't able to live their fullest selves. There were obstacles in the way, community and economic, geopolitical obstacles in the way. And it was like, how do we unlock people? And so that just led me to communities do that with one another. We unlock people together. Unlock people together. So community life and learning, whether it's in organizations or social justice agencies or communities of faith, has been a pathway to step into that pain place. Yeah.
Can I add to that a little bit from a
Please, yeah, we're in it.
slightly different perspective, which is we go through life and we all accumulate pain and traumas in our own way. And then the question is, what do we do with that? And so you can just be in pain yourself, or if you find a way to work through it, to turn that into healing for others or medicine for others. So I said before, this notion of the wounded healer.
Yeah.
Like the healer who accumulates wounds, but then uses the wounds as a way to be a salve for other people because you've been down that road before. You have something to say. And so that your pain has more meaning than just your own pain, but it's of service to some other purpose, some other person or some other situation. And I think when we're able to do that, or at least I'll speak for myself, in the moments when I've been able to do that or to share something that was painful for me, and the insights and the empathy and the compassion that yielded with another person who needed that in a precise way, felt really fulfilling.
Yeah. It requires so much, I've learned, work on self and maturity of self to actually get to the journey place, I think, from woundedness to be able to be a balm for others and not just spreading more wound. It requires a certain amount of maturity.
But that happens. I mean, both happen all the time. I mean,
For sure. Back and forth.
People just spread their junk in all directions often. And, but I feel a calling around that wounded healer piece, to take what I have to be of some loving kindness to other people.
So, John, in the spirit of this conversation, and I love where we've gone with it, I wonder if we're ready to have you speak about the future and what you see around the corner. Again, you are holding a very diverse, complex, and global perspective always. That universality and the particularity of your work and efforts right now. Imagine you're speaking to a room of emerging leaders. They have said, yes, John, we hear you. This is about our activation and our contribution in the spheres of influence that we are in. Pay attention, eyes wide open, off we go. What counsel would you give them in terms of like 2025 looking around the corner? What do they need to pay attention to now? Where would you encourage them to put their energies, put their better questions, put their practices?
Yeah. I would ask people to put their attention onto their humanity and to their hearts and their love and compassion. And I'll say why. So it feels like the forces happening in the world are ripping all that apart at the moment. And even empathy as a thing is now bad or wrong somehow in the United States. And we're all excited about artificial intelligence, and everybody's on their phones and everything, blah blah blah. So like the all this energy is moving in this non-embodied, non-human capabilities, non-environmental. I mean, and a lot of it's driven by dynamics in my country, which means that we have to put equal or more energy in the opposite direction: love, kindness, relationship, connection, embodiment, all of that. Like, go back to the basics, the most basics there are. Love, heart, all that. And I know that sounds a little woo-woo or whatever, but like, that's where I'm at. I feel like we're at the cusp of losing everything. The whole human experience is about to transform into something else. And, I sent you a draft of my book written to my future granddaughter, which is about that, like how to hold on to our humanity and our loving kindness and our humility and sense of humor and all the things that make humans human before it all goes away or it turns into something else.
John, I don't want to be facetious, but let's say it again, because you've been in the business of change, which is about, I think, the discernment of what to keep and what to let go and what to make different. Why is our humanity, with those constitutive elements you just described, why is that essential? Why can we not let go of that?
Because we were put on. So I said everything and everyone has a job to do,
You
right?
did.
And so humans were given the capabilities that we have to do a particular job. And the job is to love one another and to love the earth, our home, and to love animals here and to love the other people that are on it. I know that sounds really just
No.
woo-woo guy sitting in an office in New Jersey. And so like I think that's our job, like we beat out the Neanderthals because they didn't have that capability. Like they weren't able to do that job. Because they weren't able to tell stories. Actually, I read that in that your Noah Yuval whatever book.
Yes.
And so we come to the earth with this enormous capabilities of heart and mind and spirit and consciousness. Like, we're equipped with all this amazing stuff.
Yes.
And we deeply need that to tend to the planet that we have and to tend to the other, beings that live on the planet because we can. And if we lose that, feels like something fundamental ends. Like I think about love as a force of in the universe, like gravity is a force in the universe. Like gravity just holds everything together. Like we're sitting on the planet's revolving around the sun, it holds everything all together. Love operates like that too. It holds everything together with some grace. And if we lose the humanity, we lose that essential force of lovingness or gracefulness that's holding everything together.
Yeah, I really appreciate being in this conversation, because I think one of the meta questions is knowing that this perspective is really important, and there are alternative perspectives at play.
Yeah.
I think one of the questions is, how might we, as leaders in our spheres of impact, take seriously the impetus of progress and evolution, but not do that in abdication of what you've just described? Like, I think that's the paradoxical hard work Because one can also look at from Neanderthals to who we've become and say, well, that's a story of progress. And we've had to become,
Yeah.
more stringent around certain kinds of things, let go of some things. We've been, less human or differently human as we've evolved and progressed. But so like I think part of like the leadership work is knowing that paradox, that both and of wanting to we continue to advance the species and like our definitions of what advancement is or progress is, evolution is, but also knowing that we can't do that without these core essential aspects that are, from where I sit, experience life, they are not fully understood and they're definitely undertapped. Like, what is that energy of love? What is this notion of justice? What is this, universally like big concept of compassion? Like, we're not even close to really getting it and what we can do with it, and to take that forward even as we progress. So I think it's big work ahead of us. So thank you for the call out, pay attention to the things that sound like first principles, but man, they're robust. They're so robust. And I think we're in a place too where we need to be diligent, and thank you both of you as parents, intentional in helping us learn these things anew, again and again, every generation, every conversation that we can. Practicing it.
And what I'm thinking as you're saying all that, Ayana, is
Yeah.
what's the partnership between those essential human qualities with the technology or whatever is coming down? Like, how do we partner in a way that's really healthy? So that we're, we're not overpowered by forces beyond our control, and that we say, we can still progress and we can still keep our humanity. But that's a conversation we need to just stay in. It does feel like we're on the verge of losing our humanity. I can barely look at the news these days.
Yeah, it takes me back to your insight around knowing that we need angels. We actually need to be in a interdisciplinary, multi-perspective. You've got tech smarts, I've got heart smarts. You've got how do we bring the intelligences into the room, as opposed to into multiple rooms, multiple teams. We're right back where we started, right? Like every team has multiple superpowers. How do we bring those in? Pay attention, but also take very seriously some of these foundational and future focused kinds of questions.
Can I expand for 1 minute on my philosophy of angels?
Please.
I think there's angels everywhere, not like the, angels with the angel wings, but I think we can all be angels to one another. Like, do you ever meet somebody and or a stranger, and they just say that right thing to you? Like, they just say, look at this. And you're not looking at this, but they're like, how about that? And then you go there because they've said that. Or you're that angel to somebody else who just needs that, like, that pivot of perspective, or they need that compliment, or they need whatever they need, and you just provide it beautifully. So I think we can all be angels to each other all the time, if we're just conscious of how to if we're conscious of how to be that angel, and if we're conscious that there's angels all around us, the world becomes a softer place.
Beautiful. John, is there anything that you feel nudged to say that you haven't said yet, that's either you intuiting at Heart and Hands?
I guess here's the intuition. The last thing that I'll share is, the two of you and your team and your practice are touching lots of organizations, and you have the opportunity to intervene. And how should I say it? You have the thing your clients are hiring you to do, and then you have your job. And so like you may help solve the client's problem, but how do you do that when in a way that's leaving behind a residue of love and connection and fulfillment and expansion and all the things that we're talking about? And I would invite you to be as aware of that as you can be. And like what's your job as you're influencing people and organizations around the world?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's a lovely reminder, right? We think often about what is the deeper calling here, and
Yeah.
how do we live into that with responsiveness and integrity, faithfulness,
Care.
care. John Heller, it has been a delight.
Thank you both.
Thank you both. And we didn't even get into like plant medicine and all the things.
We can do a part two.
I'm really looking forward to that.
Yeah, I could.
That would be fantastic.
Weirdly, that's a lot easier to talk about. I could talk about that for a long time.
Yeah.
Another day.
Well, I think we'll take you up on that offer. I think
Yeah.
that's rich to have that conversation as well.
Plant medicine is a huge unlock, actually. And
Mm-hmm.
sorry, last thing to say is that in the finger on the scale, in that all that humanity and connectedness can come through that. It's an enormous tool, and it comes from the earth. It's the earth's way of teaching us how to be on the earth. And it's not surprising that that's becoming a bigger part of our culture at the moment.
Yeah.
Conversation for another day.
Conversation. We look forward to it. John Heller, thank you for being on Around the Corner. We'll be talking with you soon.
Thank you both.
Megan, we get to be in these fantastic conversations with leaders like John Heller, who, for me today, showed up as truly embodied and integrated in not only his worldview, but his perspectives, his very personal views on what leadership looks like, feels like, what it's meant to create. Start with you. I'd love to hear what was heart opening for you and like mind activating, heart and mind.
It was wonderful to get to know John
Mm.
further through that conversation. So that was a real gift. Thank you. You know me and my love of hashtags. He just blew up for me. Hashtag bring your full self to work in terms of showing us or giving us another perhaps lens into what that can really feel like, look like, the design that it can take, the permission you can give yourself. I mean, he was storytelling around understanding the bubble that you're in, connecting with other bubbles. I mean, so much to go back and listen to. But I think there was something there around his own sense of self, his sense of how he is stewarding in the systems, the communities, the organizations in which he's in, and then his own sense of self around the impact he wants to make in his lifetime. And I think that is a richer exploration for folks to think about as they receive, hashtag bring your full self to work.
Yeah, it pushed for me a little bit from like a limited understanding of what scaling is to
Yeah.
of self as a leader in a thoughtful way. The other thing I really appreciated, just building on what you're saying, was the integrity I felt modeled. He wasn't just saying, "Oh, these are nice ideas in theory," but if you are going to bring your full self and stretch yourself, well, I did it by putting on boxing gloves. Like the notion of
Yeah.
experimenting with his own story, his own life, so that there's something to be generous with in conversation with others and pulling it out of others, and the practice of paying attention to self so that you can have awareness and recognition of what others may need or others may be curious about, and be that kind of that develops others because you're working on developing yourself. And
Yeah. And I really, yeah, it's such a great reminder around accountability.
mm, mhm. Yeah, say more about that
around
keyword.
Yeah, it's your example of boxing. So I think in his story he was saying, here are my key strengths. I'm great at A, B, and C, and yet I can feel these places, comfortable with a sense of physicality, probably comfortable with a sense of physical power, I'm guessing. Were perhaps places of less practiced or uncomfortable. And he took the accountability to go and explore those aspects himself. And so I think that's really important as there is a lot of conversation, there's a lot of dialogue around bringing your sense of self, bringing your whole self, and yet perhaps not the same amount of dialogue on the accountability to work on oneself
Hmm.
as well when you've received feedback or you notice something. And he did a wonderful job of storytelling around that clearly is a consistent practice in his life.
Hmm. Yeah. Yeah, and that's beautiful, Megan, and very tactical, like for those of our listeners and listening audience. That's something you can do in your everyday. Like there's always data coming at you, right?
Yeah.
By way of feedback and that accountability, or the better question, what do I want to do with this? How
hmm
might I,
hmm
right? Really
hmm
and with that and really thoughtful. It takes me to another experience I had with John on the call, which was the sense that you as leader, you are instrument, you are practitioner,
hmm
right? No matter where you are, what spaces you are, your sense of presence and the fullness of your story can also come in as well. So notion of leader as practitioner also came up for me.
hmm hmm The job to be done.
The job to be done. Maybe the last thing, I know you and I are going to have some fun when we get off the recording talking about this, is how this applies to our work, because he was quite
Explicit.
explicit. An angel in a moment, right? In a moment of encouragement to remember the job within the job, remember the calling within the work that we do.
Yeah.
And so, I think we're going to have great fun thinking about all the intelligences that were on that call and emphasized and how that shows up in our work. So, like cognitive smarts intelligences, aesthetic and beauty, the intelligences of compassion and love and justice seeking, and the arcs toward making that happen, how all of those show up in the complexity of the organizations, the leaders we work with.
hmm
And really excited for the STRAAD Institute and the work
hmm
that we will do together in those learning communities of diversity, multiple perspectives,
hmm
and practicing the human recognition of seeing each
hmm
other and
hmm
encouraging the intelligences that we do bring. And also
hmm
being in a place where we take seriously how those intelligences work together to create better leaders, right?
hmm
John does such a lovely
hmm
job of modeling that sense of integration. So um, I'm walking away with that. I know we are walking away with that. And how do we continue to steward our own sense of accountability that in the work we do, we're lighting up so many different aspects of humans and we're bringing fullness of who we are in service to them. So ever thankful for the richness of these conversations we get to have.
Yeah, John, thanks for being our angel today.
Hashtag.
Mhm.
Thank you for joining us on Around the Corner, where global impact, human values, and the integration of many intelligences come together to shape the future of leadership. If you found today's conversation meaningful, please follow the podcast and share it with others who are curious about what it takes to lead with courage, presence, and possibility.